So, welcome to the MEMONEET. Myself Pratikam and I am your biologist. So, in this today's video lecture, we will be discussing about the animal kingdom. So, before getting into animal kingdom, in the last video lecture, what all we have discussed, we actually discussed the categorizing or dividing the animals based on their category. Based on their system, that means based on the level of organization. Then we have studied the symmetry, then triploblastic organization, what are columns, and what are the types of columns we have seen. Then segmentations as also we have studied, and what are motocodes. So after coming through all these basics things, we started to know how the animals have been classified based on that considering these all characters, how they have been classified into different phylum, right? So that is what we are going to study in this video lecture. The very first phylum that comes is phylum Porifera. So do you have any idea about phylum Porifera? Yeah. So members of these phylum are actually called as sponges because their appearance is somewhat sponge-like structure. So these are the three diagrams or three different, examples of the Porifera phylum. And when you see the appearance, they are somewhat spongy-like structure. That's why we commonly call them as the sponges. So most of them are marine, and what kind of animal you will be seeing? Asymmetrical. So what do you mean by asymmetrical mode of organization? That means you cannot divide. If a plane is being passed through the central or anywhere, you cannot divide the organism into two equal identical half, like left or right or even identical half. You cannot divide them. So that's why they come under asymmetrical animal. So they are obviously multicellular animals. Primitive multicellular matlab. So they are not evolved, but multicellular organisms. Means it consists of many cells. They coordinate and perform function. What kind of organization you will be seeing then? They have cellular level of organization, not the tissue, not the organ, but what? Cellular level of organization where cells perform specific function here. Sponges, as you can see the diagram, they have a water transport or the canal system. So what is this canal system? Major thing is you can see the minute spores here, right? So what you can see here, the minute spores can be seen here. So these minute spores, right? The minute spores that you are seeing. So we normally call them as ostia, where you will find them on the body wall. So they are the body walls, right? On the surface of the body walls, you will see these minute spores, okay? So where in the body cavity. So then on the body cavity, we also these that is actually called as spongiocole will be present. So spongiocole from where it goes out through the osculum. So first what happens? How the water is going to enter? So water is going to enter. Yes. So if you consider this as a water, so water is going to enter through the minute spores, which is actually called as ostia. Okay. In the body wall, where into the inner cavity, inner central cavity. It goes to the inner central cavity. So which is actually called as what? Spongiocole. Clear? So now from the spongiocole, that is inner body cavity, it is going to come out. Where it goes out? Through the osculum. Okay, so this part of water transport is helpful in food gathering as well as in the respiration, exchange of gases and removal of the waste from the body. So because water transport itself is going to get everything. Matlab, basically what they're going to do, water is being transporting. So in the water itself, you will have the waste as well as some of the nutrients which are required. So what it does is it is going to absorb or intake only the nutrients, and whatever the waste is there, it will be removed out. This is one point. Second point is it also helps in the intake and exchange of the gases. Okay, so that means it normally helps in the respiration also and removal of the waste also. So this is all about the how the water transport system has been clear. So the next one is um, can conocytes or the collar cells, so lining the sporocolon and the kelon. That means there will be a specialized cells called as collar cells. Okay, so they will be leaned or they will be present with where they will be present inside the cavity, that is spongiocole, okay, and the canal. So what is the major thing is they helps in the coordination one. And coming to the digestion, it is obviously intracellular digestion, and the body is supported by what? Skeleton made up of spicules or spongin fibers. So this is very important. That is, digestion is intracellular and the body is supported by the skeleton made up of the spicules or spongin fibers. So now you are clear about these points. So what about the sexes? How do you differentiate them? So sexes are not separate. You cannot differentiate. Acha chalo, this one is male. Okay, this one is female. No. Sexes is not separated. So you cannot separate means that hermaphrodites. So that means the organism having both the sexes, or you cannot separate the sexes, are actually called as hermaphrodites, right? Example, that is like egg and the sperms are actually produced in the same individual. That is, the same parent is going to produce both the egg as well as the sperm. So that is called as hermaphrodites. Okay. And coming to the reproduction part, it either follows actually asexually, that is by fragmentation process. Matlab, agar if you imagine this fragment got cut. Okay, so यहाँ पर you'll see this fragment got cut off, and it, so then what happens? The fragment which is being separated from the parent body, now that is going to grow as an individual. Okay, grow as an individual. So this is one point. And the second point is when it comes to, or when it comes to sexually, it is actually by the formation of the gametes. That is both male and female gametes when it comes for sexually. And fertilization also takes place in the water itself since they are marine living. So fertilization is internal and the development is indirect, having the larval stages. Okay, that means since the parent both is there in the same parent, matlab the one parent itself shows both male as well as female character. So that means what happens, fertilization will also be internal itself. Okay, and when it comes to development, it is indirect stage where larval stage happens and undergo a distinct to the adult stage. Morphologically, what happens? Distinct from the other. That means the younger stage cannot be, by seeing the resembles of the younger stage, will not resemble to the parent. Okay. Matlab, their initial stage or larval stage or initial stage will not be resembling to their parents until unless they develop into adult. Only when they reach adult stage, right, then only one will be able to identify, okay, they are the porifera, these are somewhat like sponges, or they might be cycons, something like that. Okay. So examples are, so first example is cycon. Cycon is nothing but, you will see the cycon here. This is the cycon. Okay. And another example is spongella. So what is spongella? This is the spongella. Okay. They are spongella. And the last one you are seeing, that is actually euspongilla. Euspongia. So spongilla and spongilla are actually called as freshwater sponge because they will be found in the freshwater itself. But euspongia are actually called as bath sponge also. Okay, sometimes they are being used um, for the bathing purpose, like by us, because they have pores, they are hard in structure and all. So that's why they can be used to clean your body also during the bath. So this is all about what? Phylum Porifera. So initially this was all about the phylum Porifera. Phylum Porifera. The next phylum is Coelianterata. The phylum Coelianterata is also called as Cyndaria. Cnidaria. So why it is actually, so the next one is the phylum Coelianterata. So the phylum Coelianterata is also called as Cyn Cnidaria. So why? Because the Cnidaria word is actually derived from the cnidoblasts or cnidocyst, which means they normally containing a stringing capsules or nematocytes, which is present on the tentacles of the body. So if you consider this as a tentacles of the body, so around the body or present on the tentacles of the body, there will be a stinging capsules or nematocytes are present. So that's why these organisms are actually called as cnidaria. Okay. So this is all about why the name called cnidaria came for the Coelianterata. And most of the Coelianterata are aquatic, mostly marine, and they are sessile or free swimming organism. They prefer to be independent swimmers. Radially symmetry. So radially symmetry matlab when you pass a plane at any angle through the center, it will cut them into two equal halves, identical halves. So that is what called as radially symmetry. Then the cnidoblast, that what I was talking, why it has been used. The cnidoblasts are actually used for anchorage or defense and for the capture of the prey. That means they normally helps in the defense purpose or protective purpose or capturing of the prey in a very strong way. And another thing, that is synodosis. So after that, these synodarians exhibit a tissue level of organization. That is, most of the Coelianterata, what level of organization has been exhibited? Tissue level of organization. And they are diploblastic animals. Okay. Then they have a central gastrovascular cavity. In the central region, they do have a gastrovascular cavity. Yes. So gastrovascular cavity. So with a single opening, here you can see only a single opening, right? So with a single opening, that is either it will be a mouth where on the high hypostoma region. This is the hypostoma region. So basically there will be a mouth, single opening will be that. So digestion is obviously extracellular or intracellular. Digestion will be observed. Some of the Coelianteratas, um, you know, for example, what do I take an example? Okay, corals, they have a skeleton composed of calcium carbonate. Okay. So that means that skeleton system is actually composed of calcium carbonate, which is very hard in nature. This is one point. Then the coleanterata, they exhibit two base body forms. That is, one is polyp and the another one is medusa. Okay. So the first one is polyp and the second one is medusa. For example, this thing, if you consider, so this is actually called as the first one that I'm talking about. This diagram is actually called as arule or medusa. Okay. And for this, another one will come. I thought. So that is like, so these kind of structure is actually called as polyp. Then you'll actually know what is the role of this medusa and polyp anyhow. So the former is a cystile and cylindrical form like hydra. That means when you're talking about the structure, they're either cylindrical kind of structure, okay, or else like hydra, admesier, etc. Whereas the somewhat latter in umbrella like structure that you can see here, okay, like umbrella like free swimming like structure, like you will be seeing in orella or jellyfish. Okay, so this is all about the structure. These the Coleanterata basically, which exist in both form. That is, they exhibit alternation of generation. What is this alternation of generation? So alternation of generation is nothing but it is the metagenesis. That is, what happens is, now it comes the polyp that I have shown you through the diagram. It normally produces this medusae asexually. Okay, so that is the polyp produces the medusae asexually, and medusae forms the polyp sexually. That means, see, for example, what happens if it comes to the polyp, okay? So they are going to produce this medusae asexually, okay? And medusae, they normally form the polyp sexually. Obelia, if you take an example. So that means their outer line of the body, that how it is being produced. So most of this are actually being produced by the, yes, they are being produced by the sexual mode, and most of these are being produced by the asexual mode. Okay, so this is all about one term. Now coming to the, like, most of the jellyfish and all, you will see them sexually, and this is somewhat you will see them as asexual being. So that is the metagenesis, alternation of generation. Even though they are belong to the same species, there are some differences. Example, that is what they have said. Physalia. So you should remember this. The Physalia is actually called as Portuguese man of war because of its structure. Admesiae. So which is actually called as sea anemone. Sea anemone. Okay. So why the names are coming? Because of its structure and nothing much. Then the sea pen. Peninsulae, which is actually sea pen-like structure you will see. Then the sea fan, that is Gorgonia. Then the last one is brain-like structure, brain cord-like structure you will see. So that is Mendriae. Okay, so this is all about the, yeah. I just want to clarify you this thing. I think you're still confused. See, alternation of generation matlab, what happens is, uh, see what happens is, if this is polyp and you have the medusa. So polyp has to develop into medusa. It normally undergoes asexually. So from medusa to polyp, it should actually go sexually. Okay. So this is called as alternation of generation. So this is all about the Coulomb rate. Phylum Coulomb rate. So we'll go to the phylum Ctenophora. Okay. So this is the third phylum we have discussed. So coming to the Ctenophora phylum, they are commonly called as sea walnuts or comb jellies. And they are exclusively, you will find them in a marine habitat itself. So they even show the radially symmetrical diploblastic organization with tissue level of organization. That is, the function, body perform function is by the tissues. So tissue level of organization. So the body bears 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates. So this is what we are talking about. Okay. So there is like 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates, which normally that thing is going to help for the locomotion. This is one point. Then coming to the digestion, it is again both by extracellular as well as intracellular digestion will be observed. And it actually shows lighting property that is actually called as bioluminescence, which means they have a living organisms which have a property of emitting light. You have seen this light insects, right? The same thing. So these organisms in water, they have this lighting property. So he has been well marked. Then coming to the sexes, sexes are not separated. So reproduction takes place only by sexual means. So obviously sexes are not separated means internal fertilization or external fertilization. Here what happens, it is actually through the external fertilization with indirect development. That means larval stage and the adult stage kind of. Okay. So most of the example are pleurobrachiae is one and tenoplane is another one. So these are the examples for the Ctenophora. The next one is phylum Platyhelminthes. So what is the speciality of phylum Platyhelminthes? So one thing is they have dorso-ventrally flattened body. That means you can see flat body. Flat body can be observed. Yes. So one thing is you will observe a flat body. Hence they are actually called as flatworms. So they are mostly endoparasitic in nature. So endoparasitic means they normally found inside the animal body. So including human beings, you will find them. So coming to the symmetry, they are actually bilateral symmetry. So what do you mean by bilateral symmetry? You can divide, if you pass a plane at the center, you can divide them into two equal left and right half. Okay. So if you pass a straight line through the center, so this becomes the left half and this becomes the right half. So this thing you can see. So this is one point. And the next point is they have what kind of animal? That triploblastic and aculomates animals. So that means aculomates, pseudoculomates. So you know, right? Aculomates and pseudoculomates. What do you mean by aculomates? Yes. So the cavity is absent. So they are called as aculomates. What about triploblastic animals? Yeah, so triploblastic matlab, वहाँ पर what happens in between the ectoderm and endoderm, mesoderm will be present. So they are called as triploblastic. So these kind of characterization is being seen in this animal. Then there is a special structure called as hookers as well as suckers. Okay, so why hookers and suckers? They are present where you will see them in a parasitic mode. So hookers and suckers. Hookers normally helps in the attachment. Suckers helps to suck the nutrients or blood from the host. This is one thing. So obviously, since they are inside the animal, so they absorb the nutrients from the host directly through their body surface. This is one point. And they have a specialized cells which is actually called as the flame cells. So what is this flame cells? The major function of this flame cell is osmoregulation, balancing nature. And there is another one thing, that is it also helps in the excretion process. Flame cell. Then coming to the sexes, again here sexes are not separated. So fertilization is internal. And coming to the development, it is through many larval stages. Some members like the planaria, they normally possesses high regeneration capacity. High regeneration capacity, matlab, if you cut up small some part of this thing, again it gets regenerated. Okay, so some of the examples are tapeworm, that is Tinea, and the liver fluke, that is Pascola. Okay, so this is the liver flus and this is the tapeworm. So this is all about the phylum Platyhelminthes. So the next one is phylum Aschelminthes. So structurally somewhat similar, but the body of the Aschelminthes is somewhat circular in nature, and hence they are actually called as roundworms. So this is clear. So they are called as roundworms. So they are also free living organisms, one thing, and you will find them in aquatic as well as terrestrial. So they are also parasitic form in both plants and as well as in animals. You will see them. So you can easily differentiate male and female. So females are somewhat long and large when compared to the male. And at the end region, you will be seeing the foldings, whereas in females, you won't see that foldings. Then coming to the roundworm examples, as I told, it is the example is roundworm, right? So in Aschelminthes, uh, when it comes to the organ cellular level, it is organ system level of organization can be seen, and they are bilateral symmetry, triploblastic, and pseudocoulomb animals. That means they normally shows false coulomb body level. So hence it is called as pseudocoulombates animal. Next, coming to the this digestive and all, it has an alimentary canal is actually complete with well-developed muscular pharynx. So what happens is you can see the opening as well as the excretion also can be seen here, right? So an excretory tube removes the body waste from the body cavity through the excretory pore, which will be present. So from there, whatever the waste will be removed out. Sexes here are separated, as I have told you. So it is actually called as dioecious animal or dioecious organism. Sorry. So because sexes are separated and you can easily identify whether it is the male or well as female. So they are dioecious organisms. Okay. And oftenly, as I have told you, that the female will be more longer when compared to the male. And coming to the fertilization, it is internal fertilization and development may be direct. That means the younger one it normally resembles the adult form itself. or sometimes it could be indirect. It depends. So examples, the roundworm, that is Ascaris, then Ucheria, that is the uh, filarial worms, and ancylostoma, which is actually called as hookworms. They are parasitic, and they normally depend on the host for their food, nutrients, and all. The next one is the phylum Annelida. So coming to the phylum Annelida, yes. So again, this phylum Annelida, they are marine. That means they are aquatic in nature. They live in both marine as well as fresh water. And sometimes you will see this phylum Annelida being in the terrestrial mode also. So therefore, they are the free living, and sometimes, some of the species are parasitic. That means they live in the other host, inside the other host. So they exhibit organ system level of organization, and coming to the symmetry, it is bilateral symmetry. They are triploblastic in nature, and metamerically they are segmented. That means on the surface of the body, you can actually see these segments. And they are coulomate animals, presence of coulomb. So their body surface is distinct mark out into, that's what I'm saying you. There are different segments, and so that is how you will be mark. Okay, this organism belongs to the phylum Annelida. Okay, so the phylum Annelida name has been taken by the Latin word which means annulus, little ring. Because its structure, it is somewhat little ring like structure, you will see. That is one reason why they have given this name. So they normally possess the longitudinal and circular muscular, nature of the body, which actually helps in the locomotion. So they have to wall like this. So something like it has to move like this. Okay. So in this way, their circular elongated body will help them for the locomotion one. Then when coming to the aquatic annelids, they are normally, somewhat you will see them lateral appearance will be observed. Uh, Parapodia and all. So parapodia, these are actually the parapodia. It normally helps in the swimming purpose. Then when it comes to the circulatory system, here you can actually see the closed type of circulatory system can be observed. And nephridia, okay. Nephridia, this actually helps in the osmoregulation and even for the excretion purpose. Then it has a neural system. A neural system consists of paired ganglia. So, if it is single ganglions, we normally called. If they are paired, we normally called as ganglia. So that is the nervous system. So they are being connected by the lateral nerves to the double ventral nerve cord. So if this is the nerve, so this is how they are being connected. So this is all about the nervous system. And for example, if you take Nairis as an example. This one, that is Nairis as an example. What happens? Or if you, yeah, then normally if you take this as an example, which is the earthworm or something, and another one you can take is this is actually the leech, iridinia. Okay, that is the blood sucking leech. So this one. So this is all about the annelida. This basics things at least you should know about the annelida. Uh, the Annelida. So we will go with the phylum Arthropoda. So coming to the phylum Arthropoda, see, I have also explained in Annelida the regeneration, right? Especially by taking an example of planaria. So this is how the regeneration happens in planaria. So greater amount of regenerations they show. So here it is. And well, if, for example, if this is the planaria, so if you cut any part of this planaria, right, or immediately you will see a greater amount of regeneration where from which part they got cut off. So again, it is going to develop. Suppose you have cut them into three parts. See, part one, like this is the first part, and This is the first part, this is the second part, and this is the third part, right? So what happens is from this part, actually, you will see the another growth, and from this part, you will see the another growth. So in this way, you will actually see some in some species, in some animals, or sorry, in some organisms, you'll see a greater amount of regeneration, that is high regeneration capacity. Then this is all about the, yeah, what do you say that? So basically, this was all about the phylum Annelida. So these are some of the examples of Annelida. So if you are unable to remember examples of roundworm and all like Ascaris, Ucheria, and as well stoma. So obviously there are some shortcut also. You can prefer this shortcut. Like always wear ankle. So A resembles the ascaris, W resembles the ucheria, and A resembles the stoma. So this is all about the phylum Annelida. So the moving to the next phylum. So that is phylum Arthropoda. So phylum Arthropoda are actually the largest phylum. That's what we say because there are large number of organisms can be found in this phylum. So arthro word defines like seven. That is seven jointed poda. That is nothing but appendages, seven appendages. So hence it is been named as the Arthropoda. And yes, this is the largest phylum of animal kingdom. All insects cannot fly in the arthropoda, only some can fly. It's like here you have. Okay, so yeah, some types like beetles, crustaceans, and mites, which normally live in an aquatic environment, they cannot. Some of them, like those which normally live in an aquatic environment, are unable to fly. So that means not all the insects can fly. Only few insects can fly, and some of them which normally live in aquatic, and some insects that are purely terrestrial oriented. So those they cannot fly. So common name in sense like arthropoda's common name is insects, and coming to habitat, that's what they're both terrestrial, aquatic habitat, and aerial. You will find them. Then coming to the symmetry, that bilayer symmetry and coulomb, they're coulomettes. See, instead of reading in this way, this is also a part, right? So you can actually have the shortcut ways of remembering them, revising them instead of going through the textbook line to line and all. So at the end moment, if you want to revise or if you want to understand neatly, you'll get like these types of pictures, pictorial representation, or some of the direct points and shortcut methods. So where you will get is you will get in the MEMONEET app, where there is a separate note section also. So you'll get every entire notes, like these kinds of structured notes in our MEMONEET app and even in the Elite plan. So if you are still having some confusions and all, please, subscribe in our Telegram channel, and you'll get all the informations there. So yeah, coming to this thing, that is that obviously when it comes to their coulomb, their coulomettes, and yeah, segmented body, you can see like the body can now be divided into head, thorax, as well as abdomen. So if you can see this diagram, obviously you can divide them into head, then thorax, and the abdomen. So everywhere you can divide them into head, thorax, and abdomen. So, and coming to the body level of organization, see here the one thing interesting thing is over two-thirds of all the named species on Earth are arthropods. That means arthropods, they are more demanding. I mean, they are too occupied all over the Earth. One thing, and they have a organ system level of organization. Like they have a well-developed organ, digestive, respiratory system, nervous system, and all. So they are bilaterally symmetry. You can divide them into two equal left as well as right half by passing a plane through the center. Then triploblastic organization it shows. And coming to the they're segmented as I have explained, and they're coulomate animals. Okay, they're coulomate animals. They have coulomb. So body of the arthropods or insects are actually covered by the chitinous exoskeleton kind of structure. Then the body consists of, yes, head, thorax, and abdomen, and they have a jointed appendage. So if you see this thing, it is what? Jointed appendages. That is arthropods, arthro is nothing but joint, and poda is nothing but this poda is nothing but appendages. So they will be having a jointed appendages. So respiratory system is through the gills, book gills, and book lungs, or even trachea. So it differs from insect to insect, but you will see these kinds of respiratory system. And circulatory system is actually somewhat open type of circulatory system you will see. Then sensory organs, you have antennas are present as a sensory organs, and eyes, they have both compound as well as simple eyes. Then organs such as stratocysts or the balance organs are also present. So coming to the excretory system, it normally takes place through the malphizian tubules will be present. So that is going to take care of this excretory system. And they are mostly dioecious. Okay. So, and coming to the fertilization is usually again internal fertilization, and it could be direct or indirect. And most of them are oviparous. That is, they normally lay egg. So development, maybe that's what I have told you, right? Either it could be directly or indirect development can be observed, but almost most of the insects are oviparous. So examples are, see, some of the insects you have a very greater economic insects like apes, like apis, that is honeybee and all. So and silkworm, that is Bombaxi mori, and the lac insect, Lacifer. These are been a very economic important, because honeybee will get honey, by then silkworm silk, and from lac insects also you will actually derive silk, certain kind of silk. So they have been used as agriculture value also. I mean, they are being reared to get the product. This is one thing. And some of them are being also used as vectors, and some of them are disease-causing vectors, and some they have been used by us itself. They act as the vectors, like malaria has been caused by the mosquito, Anopheles mosquito and all. Then we have some living fossils are also there, like which actually shows the ancestor relationship and all. So that means with the duration of time they have not shown any changes. Okay, so that's still exactly the way they are, somewhat they were in before, like king crab and all. So these normally show a living fossil. So this is all about the arthropods. So the next phylum is the molluscus. What do you mean by molluscus? They are actually the second most largest phylum. Okay, largest animal phylum in all the phylum. So the molluscus are the terrestrial, or you will also find them in aquatic state. So that is most both marine as well as in the freshwater. So what about their organ system now? They have, I mean, what kind of organization they show? They also show organ system, level of organization. And coming to its symmetry, it's bilateral symmetry with triploblastic, as well as what kind of coulomb is present? Coulomates animals. That means coulombs are present. Coulomb is present. So body is actually covered by calcaneous shell. That means the body is actually covered by the calcaneous shell, which is very hard. This is for some organisms it is covered, and it is really very hard and tough, and it is unsegmented with a distinct head. So where it becomes a part of it itself. So if you remove this thing, right, the animal will obviously die, because that skin itself is attached to it. Then it has a distinct head. Then muscular foot are present, and vascular humps are present. So muscular flutes, so here you can see them. So these are actually somewhat muscular flutes are present. Okay. And coming to its skinny type, it is somewhat small. The skins are very soft and spongy like of skin, which forms a mantle over the vascular humps. So if you consider these as a vascular humps, okay, like these kind. So on this, you will find somewhat skinny, soft, spongy like structure will be found. Like when you say about a skin. And there will be a space, okay? There will be a space between the hump and the mantle, and that space is actually called as mantle cavity. So that is actually called as mantle cavity. Yeah. So which acts as a gills, and there is a feathery gills are also present in this mantle cavity. So this is another point. Then they have the respiratory as well as the excretory, function has been taken care. Then coming to its this head and all. So anteriorly, you'll actually see the head region, and they have a sensory tentacles will be present. So coming to the mouth, they contain a mouth. Okay, so they normally contain a file like uh, rasping organs for feeding called radula. So somewhat like this kind of structure will be present on the mouth part. So this is actually called as radula. So from where the tentacles will come. Okay, so this is actually called as radula. So where the feeding thing and all goes. Then they are usually dioecious animal, and uh, like male and female separations can be seen. And another thing is they're oviparous. That means they normally lay egg. You know, and coming to its development, it is somewhat indirect development can be observed. So example is phyla, that is apple snail is one example. Then pearl ostia. So even they are being, some of them are being also used as economic important, like food purpose or pearl production purpose and all. So you have another sepia, which is cuttlefish, and quide, that is nothing but uh, loligo. Then octopus, which is actually called as the devilfish. So these are tusk shell, everything. These are some of the examples of the molluscus. So this is all about the molluscus. Then we have is echinodermata. So coming to the echinodermata family, sorry, phylum. So these animals have an endoskeleton on the surface. That is, calcareous ossicles are present. Hence, they are called as echinodermatas. So on their body covering, you will actually see a calcareous ossicles will be present. So just like this. Okay. So therefore, they are actually called as echinodermata. So they are, most of them all are marine with organ system level of organization. So coming to the adult, it actually shows radial symmetry. So you know, right, radial symmetry. Most like starfish and all, they come under this thing. And but when they are in larval stage, I mean during the initial developmental larval stage, it normally shows bilateral symmetry. So they are triploblastic and coulomate animals, that is true coulomates are present. And digestive system, it has it the digestive system is completed with mouth on the lower, that means where lower, that is ventricle side, in this part, and anus at the upper dorsal part. Okay, so upper dorsal side you will find the anus. So there is a complete digestive system. Then most distinct features of the echinoderms is the present of the water vascular system, because they are completely the marine. So obviously you will find the water vascular system, which actually helps in the locomotion one, and capturing of prey and transport of food and respiration. So this is another important point. Then coming to the this thing, the excretory system is absent. I mean, there is no excretory system present. And coming to the sexes are separated. You can see like what are males and female. So since separated, the reproduction is sexually. Fertilization, you obviously, when it comes to marine type, it happens externally. And coming to its development, they are indirect with free swimming larvae. So this is another point. You can actually ask me like, what do you say that even though they have a water vascular system which helps in the locomotion, I mean it has a complete digestive system, I told, right? So anus is present and all. So yeah, so mouth and anus is present, but when it comes to excretory system, it is absent. I mean, and you know that you won't see an excretory system anyhow. Then coming to the examples, you have Asteris, that is starfish, Echinus, sea urchins, and sea lily are present, Antidon, and Cucumere, that is nothing but sea cucumber, Cucumeria. Then, yeah, brittle fish is also present, Oporio, Oporia. So this is all about the echinoderms or echinodermata. So coming to the last phylum, I'll just guess this might be the last phylum. So I mean, not last phylum. You have hemichordata as well as chordata. I will be discussing about hemichordata because from chordata again there are some different classes, subclasses are there in the chordata. So I'll end up with hemichordata here. So phylum hemichordata was early considered as phylum, subphylum under the phylum chordata itself, but now they have been placed under non-chordates. Before this, hemichordata was also been placed under the phylum Chordata itself, but now because of some consideration and all, it have been placed separately and they have been named the phylum Hemichordata itself. Okay, because most of the non-chordatas they come under the phylum Hemichordata. Then they phylum consists of small group of worm-like marine animals with some organ system level of organization. Okay, this is another point. Then they are bilaterally symmetry and triploblastic as well as the coulomate animals. So the body is actually cylindrical and is composed of anterior. The body is cylindrical and it composed of anterior proboscis. So, well, like what exactly this proboscis is in sense, if you consider the example of Balanogosis example, so you will find them. All right. I could like show you the diagram itself, which I'll definitely show you the picture, but I'm just trying to write the diagram right now. So if you consider this as like what do you call as melanogosis as an example. So the outer layer, the anterior part is actually called as the proboscis. Okay. And this middle part is actually called as collar. And the long trunk you can see, right? So this is actually called as the long trunk region. So I think now this is clear to you. So this is what the body has been divided. Then coming to its circulatory system is open type of circulatory system, and respiration takes place through the gills, and excretory organ is the proboscis. Proboscis or gland is the excretory organ now. Then coming to the sexes, they are separated. So fertilization will be obviously external fertilization. Development will always be indirect. Example, balanoglossus is one example, and sagoglossus is another example. This is all about the hemichordata, and the same thing is you'll understand. Yeah, this is the diagram of balano glosses. Okay, so you can actually see this proboscis, collar, and trunk region. So distinct feature is rudimentary notochord is actually present here. So yes, this is all about the hemichordata. Okay.